Hello. We are back with an episode 2, which I consider a success because I've I've done many things where I dropped out after the first episode, quote unquote. So, reintroducing myself, this is Reds,
And this is S.
and today we are going to talk a little bit about some administrative stuff like housekeeping, navigating the podcast, etc., etc. We're going to do like a few minutes of just chatting about what we're doing, how we are feeling. 2020 has been, let's say, challenging might be the word that I can use on this podcast without getting it marked for explicit content. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll go into the track of the day and go on from there. But to begin with, I just want to talk about the first episode. It sounds like a lot of people have listened to it or in the process of listening to it, and at least people are excited that it exists, which is great because S and I are very excited that it exists. So thank you for listening if you have listened, and please do so if you have not heard.
And as I as I said, if I got like 2 people to listen, that was my level of expectation, because I love keeping a bar so low that anything above that would put me on top of the moon. So 2 people listen, and I'd be happy than that. And I think it really matters that a lot of people took the time to comment and let us know how you felt about it. And that really, I mean, that's the beauty of this fandom in general, is that we can get people to talk about it. So thank you so much. I just want to give you all a big, tight hug and 5 platefuls of jalebi.
Social distanced.
Social distance. Sorry, virtual hugs. Virtual hugs. Virtual hugs.
All right. So just to kind of go over some of the things we've discovered because we're new to podcasting. We're probably going to be uploading to YouTube more frequently because YouTube allows, there's no limit on the uploads there, whereas SoundCloud, I think, limits us to like 3 hours per month. So SoundCloud might have to catch up. We don't want to only do 3 a month because we have a lot to talk about and there's a lot of episodes and tracks in IPK, and we'll be here forever if we do that. So we're probably going to be uploading to YouTube more frequently, but don't fear, like we're going to like let you know what's happening on my blog, my Tumblr, SS Tumblr. So just follow us on any of these platforms and you'll know what's happening. And the other piece of it is we are kind of discussing, like, let us know, but we are thinking about maybe interspersing these episodic IPK stuff with like maybe movie reviews. We both watched Halal recently. Let us know if you would like us to do a review of that. I fell in love with Tuhemara Sunday. I cannot believe I took this many years to watch it. It was S's 4th watch, so we would love to do a review on that. So just let us know if you'd like to see something else as well.
We often feel like not just that we love Barun and Sinaya and everything, but we just feel that a lot of people don't pay enough attention to the films or other things that these guys release, only because there's no star name attached. And I would more than like to talk about these films because they're just great films in general. So please do let us know. Aapki farmaish would matter a lot for both of us. So yeah, and yeah, I did watch Tu Hai Mera Sunday for the first time, and I loved it just as much, if not more.
Yeah, I think I could not. I think my cheeks hurt from how much I was smiling throughout that film, which is saying a lot for me because also this is probably a great time to apologize for how much I giggled through the last podcast. I do not know why I did that because I swear to God, I'm still doing it. Oh my God. I am I would say like between S and I'm probably the person who is more serious in that, like I frown a lot. I get angry. I mean, when I watch IPK, I spend like at least half of it just frowning because I want to kill Arnav. So if you found my laugh annoying, I'm sorry. I had to listen to my own podcast and that was torturous.
Riz, I think this is a great time for you to stare at the sky and tell me, क्या कर दिया तुमने ऐस मेरे साथ? What have you done to me?
Yeah, what has S done to me? Oh my God. Anyway, I apologize for the giggles. I will try to keep them in check, but I cannot make any promises because honestly, last time I forgot we were recording. This is how our conversations go. So it might be around for as long as the podcast is around.
One thing, before we start with checkup, just a quick guide to all of you on how to navigate the podcast. So, if you check in the descriptions below, we will have like little timestamps, and even in the bar, it's segmented. So, as to you want to listen to any specific thing, like if you just want to listen about what you liked, what you didn't like, character and focus, whichever part of the podcast interests you, we're trying to make this as user friendly as possible. So if you guys have any tips or tricks as to, since it's on YouTube and it's on video, and essentially you will never get to see our faces, the way we can make this more interesting for you, or the way we things we can implement so as to it become easier for you guys to listen, please drop your ideas below. But up ke liye, check out the description. You should be able to see the timestamps, and then in the red line, in the bar, in the time bar, I think, you can see that it is divided into segments, and you can click on which segment interests you the most.
Yeah, I also would like to take this opportunity to say that S made the podcast look so much prettier than I ever could have. I was like, just dump it on SoundCloud, we can link to it and whatever. And she was like, no, if we're doing this, we're going to do this well. And thank God I have a friend who can actually make shit happen like this, because I certainly could not. All right, having said that, we're going to just go into like quick checkup with each other, like just to see how we're feeling, what our week's been like. So S, what have you been up to recently?
Apart from talking to you, no, I mean, I've been shooting on set, but with all measures, all safety, everything in gear. On one side, it feels really good to meet with people. It was a control set, guys, so don't freak out. Control set, not more than 5 people. All like, I think we were all 10 feet apart. But I think it was just nice to meet people after a really long time, especially in creative field. Like, nothing beats collaboration. Nothing beats talking to real people. So that was going on, and the world does feel different. And definitely wearing a mask means you're improving on your oral hygiene, for sure.
Just a quick thing here. I have been reading. I mean, I'm trying not to consume a lot of news, but news finds me anyway. And I was reading a couple days ago that actually wearing a mask might make the viral load lower and give you more immunity to COVID, even if you were infected. So, I mean, I know I live in the US, so we have a kind of a bad habit of not caring for other people. So, if you don't want to do it for others, do it for yourself. Apparently, it also helps you. So, wear a mask if you go out. I don't mean to get preachy, but I think this is a subject where I will get preachy.
No, I don't think you're being preachy. Like, seriously, guys, wear a mask, wash your hands. It is the easiest thing in your life that you can ever do. Just wear a mask and wash your hands. It's everything, literally. I mean, we are very lucky that we're having a virus that can be filtered out by a little mask. I'm just imagining what would have happened if the virus was much smaller and then a mask wouldn't have been able to prevent it. That would have been some serious shit.
Yep. Yeah, so going back to set, I cannot wait to watch whatever it is that you are doing. As people might have guessed, I know nothing about the world that S lives in except to consume the content. So I just sit and wait for her to tell me what's going on most of the time. But yeah, I'm really excited to see new content that my friend's working on. Um,
Acha, tum batao, how is everything on your end?
Things are good. Like I said, 2020 has been a challenging year, but I started. Thank God, thank Devi Maya. I suppose I have a new job, so I'm trying to settle into that. I can't do much yet because I don't know what to do or what's happening in general. What's that dialogue that Arnav has? Like, "Adi samay tumhare saath kya ho raha hai?"
तुम्हें खुद
Whatever.
भी नहीं पता.
So it could be named, but that's my current state of being, which I don't do too well in because I am more of an Arnav than a Kushi, I think, in personality, and I like to be in control and I like to be productive. So it's been a bit of a difficult transition, but I'm just glad I have a job. And I have things that I'm doing that are keeping me sane, like watching IPK, apparently making a podcast on it, writing about it. I have reverted back to my 17-year-old self in 2020, and don't mind that. So yeah.
All right. And I hope you all are doing all right. I hope you're all staying safe. Your all families are all right. That's what matters the most. So, okay. Hello, bye. No bye bye ho gayi. It's time for us to talk about the track for the day. So, this is episode 2, and we are going to talk about the whole aftermath of the infamous fashion show. So, we're going to be discussing this track from about like right about when Kushi goes home, Payal's marriage. She learns that Payal's marriage broke up. Obviously, the Mohalle Wala, which is the neighborhood, has more than enough to comment on it. It would be Kushi's fault because, of course, patriarchal society. And then I think after that we'll be discussing a bit about Anjali, who makes a sweet little appearance to give her brother chane ki roti and dahi and achar for breakfast instead of oats. And I hate Arnav's sada hua look because, oh my god, I would die for some nice chane ki paratha or whatever. And we will talk about right until they're in Dargah. Definitely not Mannat Ki Chabi. That's not this episode. Guys,
Oh, I
that
have so much to say about Mannat Ki Chabi. I think we need an episode on that.
we need another episode on that. So in short, this is going to go from Kushi reaching to her house, realizing Payal's marriage is broken, to them arriving at the Dargah. So Rids, what did you like about this whole this part of the track?
Oh my god, there's so much. This is going to be another, like, I love 80% of it. There was 20% that I would have changed. That would be the ratio. A couple of things. I think I just really enjoyed the introduction to characters. There was a lot of show not tell, which is, I think, a great way to share a story. I much prefer, people not monologuing, just being themselves, and you learn about them because they're being themselves. I think there's a lot of that in this episode, which I really enjoy. I don't think it'll come as a surprise to anyone that I love Shashi from the beginning, and I love how Payal reacts when she realizes that, Kushi, something happened. Like, I think Payal's one of the few characters that you kind of see that she's very in tune with Kushi's feelings. Like, she can look at Kushi and see that when she's hurt, when she's worried, when she's happy, or even in love, probably. And I love the fact that you get an introduction to that. Payal looks at Kushi's like worried state, and it's fine. Whatever hurt, like whatever Payal's hurt is, whatever she's going through, she wants to comfort her sister first, and I think that's a very sweet thing.
Yeah, and I will forever hold a grudge that this pile dies. God knows kya hota hai on the night Arnav and Kushi elope. I don't know what happened to that pile.
I think Akash and Payal also eloped the same night, and they replaced themselves with, I don't know, aliens or something, because they were like, you know what, we are going to get no alone time in this house. We are never going to have sex. I don't know if I can say this, but I'm saying it. And they were just like, you know what, we're going to nope out of this situation, and we're going to replace ourselves with someone like, I don't know, robots or something. All right, so that's a bit of it. Shashi, amazing. Like, I love that he steps in and he's like, I will take care of this, and then he's like, Kushi, go sleep. Like, he doesn't really like pile on to what's happening. I really enjoy that. And the biggest piece of it that I really really love is that when Kushi, wakes up in the middle of the night and goes to turn the stove on, like it's an Indian TV show. I freaked out. I was like, what, like, is she trying to like commit suicide? Which unfortunately we'll have to revisit this topic later on in not a great way. But I just remember thinking, like, what is happening? Oh my god. And then she whips out the jalebi batter. I'm like, okay, I'm going to love this girl. Like, that's the first moment where I was like, not the first moment, but like one of the few indicators I had to the fact that this is a character that I'm going to really enjoy watching, because she doesn't do what you expect her to do. I really love that. I feel like in this Fallout especially, you kind of see that this show might not be conventional, in the sense that, like, the people who come to like talk to them don't react, don't accuse them of anything. They're like, we support you, like the Mohalle Wali or whatever. Like, you just expect people to do a certain thing and they don't do it, and you're like, oh, I think I'll enjoy discovering these characters going forward. So I really like that. What did you like about it, us?
Okay, I mean, I think you covered a great lot of topics over there. One thing I really loved is that Kushi was shown vulnerable. I have a really soft spot for vulnerable characters because it gives them a room to grow. room to grow. And I think like when Kushi arrives home, she's still shaken. She's quivering with fear when her elders, which is basically Buaji, I hate Buaji, and that's great for the actor and writer because that's we are all supposed to hate Buaji. But yeah, like when Buaji is yelling at her, when Shashi Gupta yells at her, when her mom yells at her, like Kushi is not this pillar of strength when we meet her.
Mhm.
She has been harassed. She's learned that her entire, like, her entire exercise was down the drain because Payal's marriage broke, and this is the one thing she was trying to prevent. She was just hoping against hope that her brother-in-law, whoever, I think Abhishek it is not a dowry hungry guy, and all of that is of no use. And I think it's beautiful to see Kushi is shaking, but she's holding her own ground. Like she's defined but realistically so. Like she's scared when she tells her Buaji that no, dowry is not anyone's right, irrespective of how educated. I like it, like as he said, there's a lot of show don't tell. We don't get an overview that oh Buaji is traditional or this is how she is. Rather we get it through the way Buaji scolds Kushi. We get it from Buaji saying, why shouldn't he ask for dowry? It's his right. He's educated, he's a senior engineer, etc. etc. And through that, you understand that, oh, Buaji is this kind of a character. And I love the way Kushi being an orphan is revealed. As I said, from the previous episode, it's not. It happens when a real person would actually point out that you're an orphan. Like
Mhm.
if any relative hated you enough, this is the time where they would yell and be like, "Oh, well, if you were her own sister, you wouldn't have done it." Like it just fits so well. There is no grand declaration, but it's used as something as an insult. Like every single dialogue has like is serving three to four purposes. And I think that is what I really liked. As he said, like Shashi knowing when to yell at his daughter, Shashi knowing what is right and what is wrong. I think we really lacked a character the whole series, especially after Shashi Gupta gets paralyzed, is one character who knows the difference between right and wrong. He knows that he needs to yell at Kushi for taking matter into her own hands, but he also knows that his sister is crossing the line when it comes to yelling at Kushi. And this level headedness is what made me love Shashi Gupta because that's very reflective of how my own parents are. There's a difference between being right, like being righteous, and also being able to understand when a righteous person is also creating some sort of a mistake. And Shashi Gupta was that one person. Payal is obviously all heart to Payal because um, I think this is a Payal that we all were loved and were acquainted with. Like she is someone who understands Kushi the way Anjali understands Arnav. I think Anjali and Payal started on the same way on being able to understand what their siblings are not saying. Payal keeps her own trauma of a broken marriage aside to address the fact that Kushi is shaken and is afraid, and she reassures the sister that there's no one closer than you. And on the other hand, Anjali realizes that her brother is not yet able to. There's a particular reason why her brother held this whole show in Lucknow and what it means, and the fact that he's not being able to move on from his past. So I think they started on the same footing. And obviously, Kushi and Jalebi, classic, classic. And I loved about I mean, Shashi and Kushi scenes is so wonderful. So wonderful. It feels so nice when the neighborhood comes and something along the lines of comforts the family that actually what you did is right because if we, they said that what are the implications of a dowry led marriage? Like, uh, people get divorced or they die, wives die. So I think, but the most beautiful part about that is that Kushi is already comforted by her father at that point. She does not need the other people to come and comfort her. That's a result of Shashi Gupta being a great human being. You get that. It's not a result of Kushi needing their validation. They just come and give their blessings. That matters a lot. And coming to Anjali, I think she was a puzzle that never got resolved and got simplified because obviously you can see the clear dynamics of Anjali being an older sister to Arnav over here. It's very cute. And also there are maybe I'm reading too much into this. But
Yeah.
when Arnav tells Anjali that you're the one who did not want to come to Lucknow, and now that you have, you don't want to leave Lucknow. Anjali has this face, her smile like dims down, and she says nothing. And she changes his question with something else. And she never replies why she still wants to stay into Lucknow. Like, the basic answer would be like, maybe she's attached to the city and everything. But I feel like there was a layer of Anjali, a layer that she did not expose herself to her dearest brother. I
Yeah.
feel like we missed out on that little bit of mystery, but I really liked. Those are the few things I liked. I think that leads me to saying that point is more like what I didn't like is that we missed out on understanding Anjali. What did you not like?
Yeah. Um, Actually, before this isn't a like dislike, but listening to you talk, I thought about something.
Yeah.
I really like the fact that the I don't know. I think this contrast comes out a little bit later, but it's kind of one. It's very nice to see the neighbors and all of them actually supporting a family for once, because I feel like in most shows or in most
Mhm.
situations you kind of get that thing where they're only there to comment when like things go wrong or shit hits the
Yeah.
fan. Like they're not there to pick you up. But I feel like you see both in Lakshmi Nagar and here the neighbors actually being kind of like an extended family, where like you might have your fights and you might have your like issues or whatever, but they're also there for you when you need them to be. I really enjoy that, and I think it's a great contrast with how the Raizadas like guests are in most situations.
Oh my god, yes.
So I just thought about it right now when you were talking about it. But I like the fact that maybe they don't have like a lot in the way of wealth or like comfort, like material comforts or whatever, but these are good people who support each other. Whereas like you like pan over to the Raizada side of things, they're having a party or whatever, and people go there to like, I don't know, pick at like what's wrong or point out the faults and stuff like that. So it's kind of like the company you keep, no matter what class you are, matters.
Absolutely. Like, although they have their more than 2 cents to give when Payal's marriage is broken, they come the next day to apologize. And there's an established thing that there is almost a kinship between them for several years and things like that. And you'd never see that. Oh my god, the Raizadas have the worst neighbors ever.
Yeah. Okay, so going into what I didn't like, I definitely agree with you on the fact that I think Anjali had a hidden depth to her character that was never explored. I think Daljit is a great actress, so I feel like she wouldn't have played it that way if there wasn't something more there. Especially because Arnav, I think, actually asked like, why aren't you going back to Jijaji? Like that's kind of like the question he asks, and she deflects it. She doesn't actually answer it, and you want to question that too. Like Anjali's so shamji about it in the rest of her life. Why wouldn't she be like eager to go back to her husband? So there, I feel like they had maybe a different track in mind as well. I will do a self plug here. Like speaking to S made me write an OS recently where Anjali knows about Sham's extracurricular affairs, let's just call them, and just chooses not to see it. Essentially, chooses not to accept it. I feel like there might have been a track like that in the works potentially, or something else, but I hate the fact that that was never explored. We kind of just went to like Arnav Kushi and then at one point just Arnav Sham. So yeah, that's a bit I don't like. And the other bit, I think it was in character, so it's not a thing I don't like. It's not about the writing or the way it was shot or anything like that. It's just like a character I dislike, which I think I'm supposed to dislike, but not Boaji. Boaji I dislike here, and I think it's fair enough. Like she was meant to be disliked. There's a bit of me that like kind of hates Garima because it has that like like when I don't know if this comparison would make sense, but summer holidays, like all the kids are in the same place, and then we're doing some crazy shit. Like this used to happen to me a lot because I had cousins that I used to we all used to be in the same place for summer holidays, and maybe like we all get into trouble together, and then like your mom or dad would walk in, mostly mom because dad didn't deal with these things, but like mom would walk in and she would yell at me a lot more because she didn't have that authority, or like she couldn't say the same things to my cousins. She would just yell at me and hope that like it would like perpetuate to the rest of them. Like you treat your own almost more harshly, like you hold them to a higher standard. I feel like Garima does that quite a bit with Kushi, where she's like she's even more harsh towards Kushi in the fear that someone else might say something, because she, uh, like, as you discover later, she's Garima's sister's daughter. And I think she, in some corner of her heart, maybe she's also afraid that they would, like, people might think that she's not. There's the dynamic of, like, Kushi's her sister's daughter, Payal's Shashi's first wife's daughter, although you don't necessarily know this in this episode. Maybe she's like, maybe she treats Payal extra nicely so that no one can say anything, and maybe she treats Kushi a bit more maybe strictly, so that no one can point fingers. I don't know if that is what happens, but I kind of hate that. I think kids should be treated the same no matter how they came into your house. So there's that bit I don't really enjoy. But outside of that, I don't think I have many complaints from a technical point for this episode.
Yeah. No, same thing. I think I completely agree with you on that. Karma making sure she yells at Kushi enough before anyone else does. And yeah, I think there is, I mean, patriarchal society, you're especially bringing your dead sister's daughter. There's an obligation. I can bet someone like Buaji was wholly against Kushi being adopted.
Mm.
And so that's that's there. Overall, I think my overall impression of this thing is that it's great. Again, allowing plots and dialogues to speak out as to what we're going to get, not get. So I just get to a little beginning of the Dargah. We don't have any of the meeting, just a little bit of a beginning, but I really liked the way how they showed Arnav and Kushi are fated for each other without overdoing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, in this overall impression of things, like, we are always reminded that there's something in Arnav's past that we don't know. And for Kushi, we get to learn something about her past, and we're like, ooh. There's a sort of parallel going on. Like, Payal is supportive to Kushi, and she needs that support. And Anjali is supportive to Arnav, but in a more critical way, questioning him about his motives. And I think that is what I really liked in the beginning relationship of Anjali and Arnav, because she acts as his conscience. And that is happening, and then, like, just small things such as they're standing by the car and Kushi is like, I really like these little scenes of Kushi helping her father in business, or Kushi helping her father with the car, because it's a very how do you say, it's a son's job to be very petty about this. But the fact that these things should be non-gendered, any child should get that experience from their father in fixing a car. And Kushi seems to know her way around a car, and I think I really like that. And then just from behind, you'll see Arnav moving, like, Arnav crossing by. And I'm like, it's such a small coincidence, but a nice way to ingrain it in the viewer's head that there's something fated, something more than mere coincidences that's going to tie them up. And you're almost anticipating that they're going to meet, and you're like, this is not going to go well. So I think it just works really good in spearheading the storyline. And definitely there's no lag. Like, there's no scene where I'm like, I don't think I needed this.
Yeah.
I think every scene is adding a new quality to what the whole family is. You get to know from Garima that, oh, Garima is someone who wonders about the society. Shashi is someone who worries the most about his children's health and happiness. And for Kushi, her life revolves around Payal, very much so. And Payal is like an overprotective little person who can look after for other people at the cost of her own happiness. She will never reveal how she's feeling in a moment. So I think we get to know little of these quirks here and there
Yeah.
about everyone. So yeah.
All right, so we're going to go into a bit of a character, not analysis, I guess character focus, we would call it. We want to do um, episodes where we actually delve deep into like a character overall, but I think this episode, I think Shashi deserves spotlight on him because he's so wonderful. So we thought we'd just speak about his character for a little bit. What would you like to say?
Character in focus. Shashi Gupta. I I don't have words. He
Oh,
is
we're going to stop now. Apparently, S does not have words. So, bye.
shush. But no, he is so lovely. He's so lovely. I know, like, there is a certain kind of audience that likes to see a woman tortured, but I think I love to see women being supported, and especially by their fathers. There is nothing like seeing a good father on screen. And Shashi Gupta is everything. He is kind, he's understanding, he's fatherly. I always found it very surprising that Kushi is not his own child, but he does love her more than her own aunt. And I think there's something really beautiful about it. I think Shashi serves as this rock of a support that Kushi really required in the second half of her life. But I think it was very important to show a father who trusts and believes in his daughter without the validation of the society. I think it brings about a lot of things. It circles back to a lot of beliefs and everything that Kushi has. Like I like how these little details are attached to, like, she manages her father's business. The people they look at, um, they, they look at Kushi making jalebis and they're like, oh, we need to call Shashi right now. Just small things like that. And I think that scene really, that shot really warms my heart, where all Shashi does is he gently just like pats her head, and that
Yeah.
stops the frenzy. It warms my heart. Nothing like seeing a good father on screen.
Yeah, and I don't, I mean, maybe this is also reading into it a little too much, but I feel like Kushi kind of sees Arnav in a new light when he does the same thing in the hospital, like when he puts his
I
hand,
think you're right.
like it's a supportive gesture, that maybe, like, I don't know, pings
Selfless
her.
support.
Yeah. um
Selfless support. And it's been like, apart from Shashi, there's really no one who would support her selflessly.
yeah, maybe Pyle for a bit,
Who's there?
to a certain extent, before she was replaced by I don't know who.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Anything else? I don't know, man. I think I was just happy with the way things were moving on. I don't have आगे episodes आने दो. At that point,
Okay,
I'll really have to keep an alarm.
I'll talk about a couple of things that I really enjoyed about his character. I definitely agree with what you said. It's so great to see a father figure who is um, gentle.
Mm-hmm.
I think we don't get that a lot, where he's the person, like, Kushi feels Kushi, I feel like Kushi's comfortable speaking with Shashi in a way she's not comfortable speaking with Garima, or well, definitely not Buaji. But there's this level of, like, understanding between the two, and I think respect and trust that exists, that I think Kushi sorely misses after Shashi's paralyzed. You can definitely see that, like, you can see the heartbreak in her once that happens, and you're like, I hate the fact that we never get him back fully. I wanted to see him hearty and healthy for Kushi's sake and for his own. I wanted their interactions again, because they're so good, like you said. Focusing on this episode, though, there's a couple of things that I really really love. One is, you said this a little bit earlier. He doesn't, like, he knows that Kushi did something she shouldn't have, and he does point that out very gently, but he points it out. He's like, did you not trust me? Did you think I wouldn't do the right thing? But he knows that she's already on the brink because of how Buaji treated her and everything that happened. So he's not going in hot. He's not, like, angry, or he's not blaming her for what happened. He's just, like, very gentle in pointing it out, that why did you risk, like, what if something happened to you, or, like, why did you take it into your own hands? He is actually one of the few people who wants Kushi to be a child. where he's like, why are you taking on this burden? I'm still here. This is this is something that I should take care of. And I love that he points it out so gently to her. But he's also, and this is so beautiful, he apologizes for, like, he's like, I was in the wrong too. And he
Yeah.
admits fault, which, like, I don't know about you, my parents never do. And I find, like, I think parents should apologize when they're in the wrong, just as they ask their kids to do. I think it's a great, like, your age does not give you the right to be wrong, and, like, not uh not say sorry for it. I think no matter what your age is, how much older you are, I get the whole, like, respect your elders thing, but you also need to be someone who deserves respect. And I think Shashi just does. It's a very short scene that they have, but there's so much in it. And the interaction really, like, it establishes his character really well, and it establishes his importance in Kushi's life really well. And you can see that he deserves all the love she has for him and all the trust she has in him. So yeah, no, I adore that scene. I adore Shashi's character in general. I wanted so much more of him. I'm sad that we didn't get that, but whatever we did get was wonderful.
And I loved it that Shashi Gupta is a strong reminder that as parents, if you feel you're responsible for fixing your children's alliance, then you are also responsible if you find a shitty guy for her. Like, it's not Payal's responsibility, or it's not Payal or anyone else to blame that Abhishek turned out to be such a crappy human being. It's his fault as a father. Like, if he assumes full responsibility of Payal's shadi, then he assumes his full blame for not checking and for agreeing into giving dowry. So that is, we don't have any adult who assumes responsibility after that point.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that about covers what we wanted to talk about in this episode. I hope you enjoyed our discussion. I know we didn't have a lot of this in this episode that we were critical of, but I don't think there's really anything to critique in this part of the show. I think a lot of things were wonderfully handled. Um, so moving on, we're going to wrap up, but I just want to talk about, like, what we're going to go into in the next episode. We are going to be talking about one of my favorite scenes. This is a scene that I love revisiting when I write because it's so rich in content to have flashbacks in. But the Dargah meeting between Arnav and Kushi, and I cannot wait to talk about it. Anything to add, S?
Nothing except, जरा सुनिए, आपने अपनी मन्नत की चाबी गिरा दी, आपकी मन्नत की चाबी.
Oh my god.
एंड देवी मैया की मर्जी के बिना कोई कुछ भी नहीं कर सकता, कोई अर्नव सिंह राय ज्यादा भी नहीं. And I'm like, Kushi Kumari Gupta.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where to go from there, except to say bye, and I hope I see you all next episode.
Bye.